Coming now to question number 2, in the name of the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by all of his government's statements and actions?
Yes, I do, and especially this government's action to launch an independent review into Kāinga Ora and the deeply concerning financial state it was left in by the previous government. I also stand by this government's action to end the dysfunctional Let's Get Wellington Moving program and to focus on delivering infrastructure that Wellington actually needs, and I stand by our action to end the ute tax. And could I just make another statement by wishing the member a very Merry Christmas and the very best of luck in the new year in whatever role Kieran McAnulty gives him.
It's not particularly helpful for order.
Merry Christmas to him too. Does he agree with Christopher Luxon, quote, "In the real world outside of Wellington, outside of the bubble of MPs, people who want to learn te reo or want to learn any other education actually pay for it themselves? If so, does he believe that standard applies to him too?"
We encourage employers to upskill their employees if they need te reo for the purposes of their job. We support that, and what we don't support is actually bonuses on top of base remuneration.
Supplementary. If in the real world people pay for their own te reo Māori lessons, why did the taxpayer pay for his, and will he pay that money back?
I think all 123 MPs in this chamber, if they want to learn te reo, that's actually a good thing because they're actually there to represent all New Zealanders. I would suspect that you may have done that the same as Prime Minister and or Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary. So why did he say in the real world outside of Wellington and outside the bubble of MPs, people who want to learn te reo actually pay for it themselves?
Because they do. And many public and many private companies, people who want to actually learn te reo actually do it. But if it's a part of your job and it actually helps you do your job to represent all New Zealanders better and you want to learn te reo, I would encourage all 123 members in this chamber to do likewise.
Well, question. Does he agree with Christopher Luxon with regard to the clean car discount? Quote, "I think if I can pay, I should pay. And if so, when will he pay?"
We've talked about this before. Those are the affairs of my wife, if what you're trying to get to there.
Well, Mr. Speaker, which of the following statements, therefore, does he agree with? Christopher Luxon on the 6th of April, "I've got one Tesla, a little Tesla Model 3, yep, and I think I've got to say they're fantastic cars." Christopher Luxon on the 13th of May, "I have an electric car, a Tesla, I love it." Or Christopher Luxon on the 14th of June, and again now, "I don't have a Tesla, my wife has one."
Point of order, Honourable Chris Bishop.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is very well aware that the Prime Minister is not responsible for statements made by Mr Luxon, which may or may not be accurate, before he became Prime Minister.
Yeah, that is quite right. I was being somewhat lenient given the nature of the opening of the question. The opening answer to the question, but I think it should be brought right back to the responsibilities of the Prime Minister directly.
Fair enough. Will he pay back the more than $8,000 he's received from the clean car discount his government has now repealed?
As I've previously explained, the car is owned by my wife. Those are her financial affairs. I wouldn't bring in the affairs of your family member into public discourse because she's not the public figure.
I think that's actually a very fair point. It should be taken on board.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
We've got a point of order here from the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Supplementary question. Much more important.
Oh, sorry. Point of order, Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the now Prime Minister claimed that he owned the car himself.
Well, look, the realities of that are not immediately evident to me because I don't have those papers in front of me. All I'm saying is that it has been a fairly long-standing convention in this House not to bring family members into the debate. Well, a point of order again.
If a minister mentions their family in the answer to a question in order to avoid answering the question, it is legitimate to therefore ask them follow-up statements about their own statements.
The point of order. This is wholly absurd. Firstly, the line of questioning is out of order, because it relates to matters that are not within the Prime Minister's responsibility. Secondly, notwithstanding that clear statement of the obvious, the Prime Minister has deigned to provide a commentary in which he has said that the matter that the member is referring to relates to a family member, and I would encourage members opposite to uphold the long-standing convention that you, Mr Speaker, have referred to.
Well, that's a relevant point, but all government policy is responsibility of the Prime Minister, and that's why the question's being asked. Can we have a point of order from Chris Hipkins?
I want to be very clear based on the accusation from Christopher Bishop. I did not bring Christopher Luxon's wife into the debate.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do.
Right on, Winston Peters goes first.
Can I ask the Prime Minister as to whether it's his position on taxation that you pay the taxation at the time it applies, and if the taxation system changes, then your taxation obligations change as well, and not some woke lefty shill view that you'll apply the tax retrospectively, which is the basis of his question.
Much as the honourable member might like to think the Prime Minister is responsible for anything that is considered to be a defence against the descriptor that you gave, that's not a reasonable question. So we'll progress with Honourable Hipkins.
Does he agree with Christopher Luxon with regard to Prime Ministerial travel on Defence Force planes? Quote, there's other options, there's charter options, for example, there's commercial arrangements. Or does he agree with Prime Minister Christopher Luxon that travelling on a Defence Force plane was a convenient option?
As I've said today, we've actually asked Defence to actually look at a long-term viable option for New Zealand to use, and that could be commercial aircraft, it could be charter aircraft, it could be leased aircraft or owned aircraft. That's in the future interests of all future and potential governments to do so. I just say to the member, I think the line of questioning, given the economic crisis that's going on in this country, says he's not focused on the real issues.
On that case, Mr Speaker, supplementary.
Yep. Right, Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Well, does he therefore agree with Christopher Luxon, quote, that it would be inappropriate for us to actually commit and spend new money on planes in a recession, and therefore my personal view is that we travel commercial? If so, why has he now asked the Defence Force to bring forward plans for the replacement of those planes?
That's a priority.
What we've asked the Defence Force to do is give us a plan or a series of options and a package that could comprise of commercial, it could comprise of charter, it could comprise of leased, or it may even comprise of owned. But actually we need a long-term solution, because on this side of government we want to get out in the world and we want to double the amount of exports that this country generates, and part of that is having the tools to do that.
Well, the Honourable Chris Bishop.
What reflections does he have on the government's priorities in light of the questions from the opposition so far in this term of Parliament?
No, that's not a question. You know that's not right either. So we'll move now to question number 4.